recording?
Yeah.
So you say whatever you want.
Yeah. Whatever I want. We're going to write it down on a piece of paper so I can see it more clearly, because I thought that said duck wash.
Clearlier.
We'll show a picture. And that is 3 little dots.
We can talk about the things that we use on the hard on a daily basis. Okay. We can talk about hippity hoppity hippity
You're
hoppity.
so cute.
You wanna be, do what you wanna do, and if it sets you free, believe in only you. Yesterday is gone, forget about tomorrow, and the ceilings you see right through.
Before we get into this video, we wanted to say thank you all so much for your patience. We had some computer problems last week and weren't able to upload our video, but we thank our amazing Apple tech Ben for helping us get everything sorted out. We'll put all of his information and the link to his website in the description below.
The girls and I thought that we would come out today and talk to you a little bit about consumption on the boat, since we kind of feel like, at least right now, we're probably the heaviest consumers of the power on the boat at this point. So between just generally being on the boat, having our devices plugged in and doing the cooking that we do, Ty does most of the grilling, so he takes care of that, which doesn't consume any of our power.
Hair
tools, that sort of thing. So we thought we would talk about the power. So to recap, we have 5 solar panels that each have 400 watts of producible power. And then we have our 6th panel, which is our smaller panel that we added, that produces 335 watts potentially of power. So that is our solar intake, incoming power. We have 10 Tesla battery modules, and those battery modules collectively pull in 2,350 amp hours at 24 volts of power into the boat. So
when we convert from 24 to 48 volt, we have 1,175 amp hours total capacity, but we only use 80% of that, giving 940 available amp hours on a full charge. And we do that so that we preserve our batteries and so that they last longer.
So for our battery monitoring system, we use the V2 controller from EVTV. It uses a Raspberry Pi display to monitor the batteries. So when you hear us refer to the Raspberry Pi, it's actually that V2 display from EVTV that we're referring to. And what that does is Ty set the parameters on that so that when it shows, for example, that we're at 100% charge, that's actually only 80% capacity. So he has put our fail-safe in there in those setbacks so that we never charge above our 90% on the top end, and we never deplete below 10% on the bottom end. But when it reads it, it shows 100% or 0%, so that we've got those fail-safes in there.
Hey guys, I'm gonna interrupt for a second. If you haven't already, jump back in the rest of our power series where we go over all of our solar, batteries, inverter charger, and whatnot. Sid will put a link somewhere for that playlist on the screen here. If this video was helpful, make sure to give it a thumbs up, and while you're down there, make sure that you hit that subscribe button and don't forget to click that little bell so you get notified when we post a new video.
The things that we use on the hard on a daily basis with reckless abandonment from our 12 volt system is lights, fans, the water pump, bilge pump, our electric heads, and then the fridge freezer combo in the galley.
with our 120 volt, we have 5 floor fans that we plug in. We've got our coffee grinder, coffee maker, toaster, vacuum sealer, and then we use outlets for our electronics such as computer chargers, TVs, etc. We also have curling irons and blow dryers, and our electric kettle that we use to boil water for dishes, and also our ice maker. And then on our 240 volt, we have our cooktop and our oven.
So some things that we have but are not currently hooked up or being used because we're on the hard are our water maker, the air conditioners that we have, the dishwasher, our washer dryer, the 12 volt freezer, the 12 volt deck wash pump, the windlass, the electric winch, and other miscellaneous countertop appliances.
Correct. So the other things that we would consider that have either so little draw or no draw at all that will also add back into our system is going to be our hot water heater, our grill, and our pizza oven. And the hot water heater is because it really takes such a small amount of power to spark the ignition for it, and it is a propane hot water heater versus an electric. So that's why we're not considering that in our general consumption. So the big key takeaway to all of this is that right now we're kind of guesstimating what our usage is based on all the things that Sydney talked about, but we know things are going to change. For example, we know that those 5 floor fans that we're using just to keep comfort in our cabins and in the salon space is going to go away when we're on the water, because we'll have our regular air conditioners for usage as we see fit, plus we'll have the breeze of the ocean and everything as well. So we won't need those fans like we need them now. The interesting thing about the fans is they actually use collectively in those 5 fans about as much power as our ice maker uses. So we're going to be getting quite the savings of that and being able to use that in some of the other things that Maddie said, like the air conditioning units and the dishwasher and things like that. So we are going to have a few give and take, exactly. Our current plan is to monitor our usage or our consumption with our supply coming in from our solar and really get a good idea of where we're at and decide, do we need to add more solar, and if so, how much? And what that's going to look like as far as our flexible panel potential, because right now that's the only way that we can add more solar is through the flexible panels. So stay tuned for more on that as we go along. The other thing I guess to kind of point out at this point is just giving you some general gist on what we see right now about our consumption. On our solar coming in, our daily average of amp hours in charging that's coming in is about 293 amp hours based on all the things that Sid talked about before. We use about 325 amp hours on our 48 volt system. So what that means is we're actually consuming more than what we're bringing in through our solar. About 3.5% of our battery bank is being eaten up without being refreshed in our daily consumption. So we do have a good idea that we're going to need some more solar, but really until we get all of our systems in place the way they're supposed to be, we're not going to have the exact kind of where do we need to go with this and how much more power do we actually need. So stay tuned for more on that.
We can use 3 different formulas to find out how many watt hours, amp hours, and volts we are using. To find watt hours, we need to multiply our amp hours times our volts. To find amp hours, we need to divide the watt hours by the volts, and then to find volts, we need to divide the watt hours by the amp hours. For example, we can find out how many amp hours our ice maker uses by dividing 3600 watts, which we know by using a kilowatt meter, by 120 volts of AC power, and we get 30 amp hours of usage in a 24-hour period.
One last thing. We are going to do a Q&A to wrap up our Power Series next week. So if you've got a question, please make sure to leave a comment down below. And thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week.
No one else can